The recent release of the AVATA saw DJI's second venture into the world of FPV after the DJI FPV. With a slick Cinewhoop design and a new air unit and goggles, has the AVATA knocked the DJI FPV out of the park, or is it simply a dialed down version? I'm Jack from EDC and let's get into this comparison. So the way this versus video will work is I'll go through the price and the kits you'll get, the physical attributes of the drones and goggles, then the specs, a footage comparison, and finally a conclusion. If you're looking for something specifically between these two drones, please use the chapters available. So I'm not going to bang on, let's get straight into it, and if you're feeling generous, maybe hit that subscribe button to help out our channel and the YouTube algorithm. Okay. Price and kit, and starting with the DJI FPV, which came out in March of 2021, so nearly 2 years ago, which is pretty crazy. However, to buy this drone today with the goggles V2 and the DJI FPV controller, getting confused, as well as the Fly More kit that includes 2 extra batteries and a charging hub, it will cost you £1,218. Not too bad all in all, especially when we come on to the AVATA. So as for the recently released AVATA, we went for the ProView combo. This comes with the new goggles too, and the DJI motion controller, as well as the drone of course. And it comes in at £1,229. However, when you add in the Fly More kit, which you'll definitely need, as well as the FPV controller, the total comes to £1,594. You can see there is a significant gap of about £376, but bear in mind you won't be getting the motion controller with the FPV kit. So moving on, let's discuss the physical differences. So what's very exciting about comparing the look and performance of these two drones to other versus videos is they're both quite different. The DJI FPV looks a bit like a ball with propellers attached. It's very slick, quick, but also delicate. It's almost like DJI's equivalent of a freestyle quad, although it's very heavy, weighing around 795 grams. Now your AVATA comes in a lot lighter at 410 grams, and it's what we call a Cinewhoop in the FPV world, with its built-in propeller guards designed to protect it in crashes from people and allow it to fly more smoothly. Now as you can see, the AVATA is more compact and suited for just sliding into a bag and being ready to go straight away. However, the DJI FPV is quite awkward in its shape, and you have to take off and put on the propellers each time you use it, which can become a nuisance. That's not to say you can't buy a backpack which can accommodate it, it's just a general observation. Now it's fair to say there's no better feeling than when you turn on the DJI FPV. It's definitely the quicker drone and possibly the cooler looking of the two, but we'll discuss speed and footage in a bit. Before that, let's quickly take a look at the goggles. Now let's discuss the two different versions of goggles and prepare to be confused. So these older versions that come with the DJI FPV are called DJI Goggles V2, as they're the second version of this type of goggles from DJI. The newer goggles that are sold with the AVATA are called DJI Goggles 2. So Goggles 2, Goggles V2. Got it? Now the first obvious difference is size, with the Goggles 2 being much smaller than the V2s. Now before any shaming, Shame! Bear in mind that these goggles, when they came out, were revolutionary and one of the first digital systems we have seen. They are also available to use with almost every FPV drone going on the market. So the button ports underneath are pretty much the same, apart from the diopters on the Goggles 2 now have a locking system and focal adjustments with a simple twist for those who need glasses, an extremely smart feature. There is also a sensor in the middle of the goggles that will automatically turn the video feed off or on depending on if you're wearing them. Just remember to wear them when it comes to pairing. So the V2s produce 810p video resolution with an LED screen and a refresh rate of 144 Hz. Now the Goggles 2 have a 1080p micro OLED screen, however it has a lower refresh rate of 100 Hz. In terms of antennas, the V2 has 4 antennas that you normally need to remove each time, and they twist on and off. However, the Goggles 2 only have 2 antennas at the top that fold in and out and can also be unscrewed if you want to change them. One of the main differences is also the use of a touchpad system on the side of the goggles too. It works really well, and I find it's better than the toggle, which could be a bit sensitive sometimes, and the other buttons that the V2 had. However, as I've mentioned before, I like having the goggles record button with the V2s, but it's not massive, as you can record both in the menus and on the goggles too. I would say that the goggles too are better overall, and the lightweight design really makes a difference, especially just for sticking them up on your head to check something. I wouldn't say they are the comfiest for me personally, however, with the lens being a little too high, so I have to pull the goggles down and slightly crush my nose a bit. It's not the end of the world, but I think in future goggles, if there was an option to move them vertically as well as horizontally, that would be amazing. Also, unfortunately, the goggles too are right now only available with the AVATA, but I believe this should change with future updates. Right, let's take a deep dive into the specs of these two drones and talk about the big differences. On screen is a table comparing the main attributes of both the DJI FPV system and the AVATA. So we've gone over the price and weight, but as you can see, the AVATA has a marginally better hover time, and I can say personally you do notice the slight difference in length, as well as the fact that the battery doesn't drain as quickly, as it isn't accelerating as fast or reaching the top speeds that the DJI FPV can reach. When it comes to your video and resolution factors, the AVATA is going to dominate due to that new O3 air unit built within it. We'll come on to the footage comparison later and see if it's a big enough difference for yourself. As you can see, the AVATA can shoot at 120 FPS and 2.7K, whereas the FPV can only do it in FHD, so you'll be losing quality if you want to create some super slow-mo shots. The AVATA has a larger sensor, more effective pixels, a wider field of view, and max image size, and a higher ISO, which means greater opportunities for low-light filming, but the footage may be too grainy for some people. Now bear in mind, these are all pretty marginal wins for the AVATA, but overall do make for a much crisper image. However, when we come to the bottom of the table, and especially in the transmission, especially for us here in Central Europe, then the DJI FPV 6 kilometers is a massive difference between the AVATA's measly 2. The transmission is really what lets the AVATA down here, and I can say personally, it goes very quickly, and when in manual mode, that can often result in crashes. Yes, you can quickly press the pause/panic button, but you'll need to get into the habit of that, and I'd rather not be thinking about that when I'm attempting difficult maneuvers and flashy tricks. Finally, we don't massively need to go into obstacle avoidance, as you'll have it off once you get flying. Now, due to the better speed of the DJI FPV, it also has better wind resistance, so you'll have less interference when flying in windy conditions, especially when you have to constantly sort of readjust for what way the wind is pushing you. Now, all these factors are dependent on what you're looking for. I'm simply stating the facts and giving some of my insight into what they mean. Now, let's get on to the footage comparison. So the footage you see here is with both drones being left on auto settings. Feel free to make your own observations, but I'm just going to give my 2 cents worth. Both are in 4K 60 FPS, and you'll notice that the AVATA footage is brighter and more colourful, but the exposure changes are more drastic. You can of course buy ND filters for both drones to stop this, so you can get the right settings to keep a low ISO and avoid any grainy footage. A big downside of the DJI FPV footage is you can occasionally see the propellers on both sides when flying. What a lot of people do to avoid this is put a GoPro on top with a special attachment, but that's adding money, as well as the fact you'll probably need to buy real steady to smoothen out your footage. The DJI FPV also relies on smooth flying and doesn't have quite as good built-in stabilization compared to your AVATA. Here is some D-Cine-like footage for you to look at with a few different color grades as well. And some slow-mo footage with both shooting at 120 FPS, but the FPV is only capable in HD while the AVATA is 2.7K. You do notice the difference in medium to high winds, with the FPV managing wind a lot better and still flying strongly compared to the AVATA, which can struggle and make it harder to carry out precise flying. The transmission is also much better, which you'll see in the footage, and I've previously gone over this and mentioned it, and it will result in less crashes, and you won't lose connection halfway through your flights. Okay, conclusion time, and this is a lot harder than I imagined. I'm sure you can make your own decision based on everything I've shown and talked about, But if it were me and I had to choose between these two drones, I would go with the AVATA. I just can't fully relax with the FPV due to its fragile build, and I would rarely risk full manual or ATI mode flying. With the AVATA I can push my limits and try things without any real worry, and do so with clarity using the brand new HD goggles too. My only problem is the transmission. Now, if you're all about speed and possibly filming fast-paced sports or anything like that, then definitely consider the DJI FPV for a safe, reliable and super fast drone. Would I say that either of these drones are better in terms of footage and stabilization compared to your GoPro and Real Steady combo? Probably not. But you're getting a streamlined system that is great for beginners due to the GPS built within these drones. Anyway, that's the end of this comparison, and I could go on for a while umming and ahhing over these two, so feel free to ask any questions down in the comments and we can start a conversation there. Also, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.